I just kind of cast it as, oh, he's losing his marbles. Had I known, I think I would have handled it better. I think I would have been a much more patient person. I think my father would have felt way less alone.
Ryan Reynolds was always seen as Marvel's top comedic star, a super charming actor whose take on Deadpool pushed the boundaries of what a superhero movie could be. But in a dramatic twist, the studio apparently decided to cut him loose, blaming a whirlwind of behind-the-scenes problems involving Blake Lively's alleged misrepresentations. According to witnesses, Ryan completely lost it when he found out. This once happy actor suddenly found himself overwhelmed by shock and frustration. Marvel's choice to end such a lucrative partnership became one of the most surprising rifts Hollywood has seen in a long time. The whole saga reportedly started months earlier, though hardly anyone noticed at first. Everyone was focused on a new film adaptation directed and co-written by Justin Baldoni, a totally separate project that had no connection to Marvel or its superhero world. Blake Lively had a major part in it, and people expected her usual mix of grace and style. Early photos from the set and upbeat comments from both Justin and Blake gave zero indication of any drama. It all looked like just another polished Hollywood production that would get rave coverage in the media. When the shocking news hit Hollywood, people quickly turned their attention to Ryan. For weeks, it was unclear how involved he was. Was Blake name-dropping him behind his back, or was he supporting her from the sidelines? A few leaked texts hinted Ryan might have had some idea, if not direct involvement, in her backstage maneuvering. The fact that the actor, who's famous for his witty social media posts, didn't say a thing publicly only fueled everyone's curiosity. The story got even more tangled when Blake's lawyers suddenly quit, saying her version of events didn't match the documents they had seen. Industry insiders called this move nearly unheard of, because attorneys usually leave quietly and try not to stir the pot. Meanwhile, Marvel was watching everything with growing worry. Ryan was a crucial part of their big picture plans. Deadpool, once thought of as a bit of a gamble, had turned into a huge hit, bringing snarky humor and an R-rated edge to a franchise usually known for being more family-friendly. In a lot of fans' eyes, Ryan and Deadpool were basically the same person. His comedic timing was so spot on that it was tough to imagine anyone else playing the character.
I would say that they're more surprises because they have beginnings, middles, and ends. They're not like, it's not just like a, hey, there's the person and we move on. It's they're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you said it just earlier, but I wanted to go back on that. You think that this might be the greatest film that you've...
I mean, look, most of the time when the movie is this much fun to make, you up bad.
But as the scandal around Blake grew, Marvel had to ask itself, if Ryan was linked to some kind of public manipulation, would that overshadow the lovable anti-hero fans adored? Things got even more intense when Blake doubled down, filing official complaints against Justin. She mentioned feeling uncomfortable on set, said Justin made comments about her postpartum body that hurt her feelings, and claimed there were safety oversights during intimate scenes. If those claims were accurate, they would paint Justin in a bad light and might justify some of Blake's frustrations. But once again, more text messages popped up suggesting the situation was more complicated. It looked like Justin had actually been pretty considerate of her needs, even referencing his own back problems to show he cared about physical strain. The image of him as a careless director didn't line up with these texts. Still, the biggest problem for Ryan hit when even more raw information came out showing Blake wasn't just mentioning him now and then, she was talking about him all the time. There were hints that she was telling him to make calls or drop hints that could be seen as threats. The idea that our favorite comedic star, usually known as the nicest guy ever, might have been pulling strings behind the scenes freaked Marvel out. They started digging into Ryan's contract and doing an internal check. Did these supposed manipulations have anything to do with Marvel resources or the channels used to promote Deadpool? Were there any codes of conduct he might be violating? What really shook the studio was a rumor that Ryan had possibly used his star power and his close ties with Marvel to sway certain entertainment outlets in Blake's favor. Allegedly, in exchange for exclusive Deadpool news, some media figures would run stories making Justin sound like a pushy director. None of this was confirmed, but the rumors got louder, and Marvel suddenly had a full-blown crisis on its hands. They're known for having great relationships with their leading actors and almost never get into big public fights. The fact that they were launching an investigation into Ryan suggested they were taking the situation very seriously. Things reached a boiling point when Marvel announced they were dropping Ryan from all upcoming Deadpool projects, effective immediately. Fans couldn't believe it. Most people assumed they'd handle it quietly, maybe with a fine or new terms in his contract, but an outright firing seemed impossible. Headlines everywhere screamed, Ryan Reynolds dropped by Marvel, Deadpool franchise in chaos. And did Blake's actions ruin Ryan's career? For someone who was seen as the comedic backbone of a massively popular role, this was as harsh as it could get. Insiders say that was when Ryan lost it. He was already on edge from all the rumors tying him to Blake's behind-the-scenes antics. Losing the role he'd invested so much in must have been devastating. Friends describe his reaction as a mix of anger and disbelief.
And I'm really excited. But as I've gotten a little bit older, I sort of want to. Really, I'm lucky that I get to work in this industry, and particularly incredibly fortunate that I get to work in it this long. But I really want to work with people that are either immensely talented or people that I love and that I'm genuinely best friends with. And unfortunately, Hugh does not qualify as either of those. But I am excited because I'm a Logan fan. So. And then, that covers Will Ferrell as well. That's a guy that my entire life, I feel.
He'd spent years fighting to get Deadpool off the ground, especially when studios weren't sure an R-rated hero would be profitable. Those close to him say he felt betrayed that Marvel would ditch him so fast based on leaks and half-formed evidence. For someone whose entire brand is built on being playful and self-deprecating, having to let go of Deadpool, one of the biggest accomplishments of his career, was both personally and professionally crushing. Right after this, rumors flew about an intense meeting where Ryan faced off with Marvel execs, trying to plead his case. Some said he had explanations, insisting any mention of him in Blake's texts was out of context, that he never approved any shady moves, and that no inside Marvel info or marketing plans were ever misused. But it appears Marvel wasn't convinced. They were spooked by the drama and stood firm on their decision. There was talk of recasting Deadpool or shelving the character for a while. Either option would be a huge blow to Ryan's legacy as the mouthy mercenary. Fans were all over the map with their reactions. Some angrily blamed Blake, saying her evil plan wrecked Ryan's golden deal with Marvel. Others sided with Marvel, pointing out that the studio has always tried to protect its image, and if they believed Ryan had done something that jeopardized that, they had to act. Yet another group felt the whole thing was a messy, he said she said situation that blew up in everyone's faces. They wondered if maybe cooler heads could eventually fix this. As for Blake, she was now under a blazing hot spotlight. Once admired for her mix of beauty, skill, and approachability, she was now being portrayed as the main reason Ryan lost his Marvel future. People questioned whether she'd planned all this or if she just thought name-dropping Ryan would help her on set, never guessing it would spark a massive corporate mess. Even some of her biggest fans found it tough to ignore all the texts that seemed to show her manipulative side. She made only limited public statements, though insiders claimed she felt bad that things escalated to this level. Justin Baldoni, who was still busy wrapping up his film, said he felt for Ryan. Even though Blake accused him of some serious stuff, Justin stayed calm. He released detailed messages to refute her claims, making sure the facts were out there unedited. He said he never aimed to hurt her or Ryan professionally. His main goal was just to protect his movie and his reputation. But now that the Marvel juggernaut was involved, the stakes were way higher than he ever expected.
I was testing for a show that ended up actually getting picked up and doing very well, and I was one of two people, maybe. And then I get a call from my managers and my agent. They were both on the line, which means it's something serious. Right. Either you got the job or there's something wrong. Yeah. And they said, so you were the choice, but the network said that your eyebrows would be too distracting.
Oh, what?
Oh, no.
And then they went like, so what can we do about your eyebrows?
In an interview, he mentioned that once the drama spread beyond his film set, it spiraled far beyond his control. The pressure on Ryan ramped up even more as his other endorsements and upcoming roles began to look shaky. Before all this, he was a go-to guy for funny ads that broke the usual mold. But suddenly, sponsors were getting nervous. They were waiting to see if Ryan could clear his name, or if this drama with Blake was going to overshadow any comedic angle he might try to spin. Potential movie deals not related to Marvel were also put on hold, with everyone waiting to see if more damaging leaks or lawsuits were on the horizon. Ryan's anger reportedly grew as he saw everything he'd worked for slipping away. He felt Marvel acted too fast, judging him on partial information fueled by gossip. He saw himself as the fall guy for a situation mostly caused by Blake's maneuvers, which he might not have fully known about. Privately, he told friends he felt blindsided. He was a comedic actor brought down by drama that had nothing to do with his usual funny shtick, stripped of the role he'd worked so hard to turn into a blockbuster. The guy who seemed to turn every cameo into a viral moment was suddenly in a vulnerable position, feeling betrayed by the very studio he'd been so loyal to. Marvel, on the other hand, was dealing with criticism of its own. Dropping Ryan might have been a way to protect the brand, but the fans who loved his version of Deadpool felt abandoned. Online petitions started popping up, demanding Marvel bring Reynolds back or wait for evidence. Some supporters felt the studio had caved to tabloid pressure, or that they were punishing fans by yanking a beloved character from their lineup. Marvel, staying true to its usual strategy, didn't say much beyond a short statement about upholding brand standards and values. Insiders said the proof linking Ryan to the fiasco was significant enough that they had to take action. The fallout was potentially bigger than just losing one character. It could affect the entire cinematic universe they'd carefully built for more than a decade. People wondered if there might be some kind of settlement or quiet rehiring if Ryan could somehow prove his innocence. Hollywood is known for dramatic comebacks. Stars can be blacklisted one day and welcomed back the next if new information comes to light. But right then, the split seemed very real. Ryan's personal ties to Blake, combined with Marvel's determination to stay scandal-free, created a storm that wasn't likely to calm down quickly.
Yeah. My relationship with my father, which was very complicated and difficult. My dad was a very, I come from a middle class, kind of blue-collar home, and my dad was just of that generation, where it's just he was Clint Eastwood, less is more. Simple grunts is how he communicated.
Okay, gotcha.
I think people tell themselves stories, and this sort of comes back to your worldview that you just mentioned about.
He was famous for using humor to diffuse tough situations, but it was hard to imagine a witty one-liner that could fix this kind of meltdown. Blake's future in Hollywood also seemed shaky. Her lawyer had quit without warning. Those text messages hinted at manipulative behavior, and the entire situation suggested she'd played a part in pushing Ryan out of Marvel. Some big names still respected her talent, but there was a new wariness about hiring her because of the potential for on-set drama. It was a classic example of how someone's image can go from squeaky clean to highly questionable almost overnight. Add to that the possibility that she was the reason Marvel's funniest star lost his job, and studios started to hesitate. Would fans hold her responsible for breaking up the comedic dream team? As the scandal grew, various crew members from Justin's production began opening up about smaller incidents that suddenly felt more important. They talked about how Blake demanded script changes at the last minute and threatened to skip promotion if she didn't get her way. Others recalled visits from Ryan that were initially seen as friendly drop-ins, but now felt like they might have been subtle intimidation, reminding everyone how influential he and Blake could be. Whether or not these stories directly led to Marvel's decision, they created a really uncomfortable backdrop. Ryan's meltdown wasn't officially documented, but people close to him said it was both a personal and professional crisis. One person said he swung between sitting silently in disbelief and erupting in anger about how fast things were falling apart, blaming the fact that personal drama had oozed into his professional life. For a guy who normally cracks jokes to brush off negative vibes, it was sobering to realize that Deadpool, the role he'd poured so much energy into, could be done for him. On top of all this, a few media outlets claimed Ryan might release his own batch of text messages that could clear him of being involved in Blake's alleged schemes. If that happens, we could see yet another wave of jaw-dropping reveals. Others suggested if he had any evidence that could help him, he would have shared it already, noting that every day he stays quiet makes Marvel look more justified in thinking he was part of, or at least complicit in, Blake's behind-the-scenes maneuvering. Some fans pinned their hopes on Justin Baldoni, the guy who ended up in the middle of all this without meaning to, thinking maybe he'd step forward and confirm Ryan wasn't the bad guy. So far, though, Justin has remained pretty neutral, probably not wanting to get dragged into even more controversy. He seems to be relying on the release of the full text messages to speak for itself, trusting that the truth will come out on its own. The last thing he wants is to seem like he's interfering in Marvel's business.
It's based on a beautiful, really important book, and it's about a young woman named Lily who confronts the generational cycles in her life and breaks them and ends the circle. And I hope people find it inspiring, and yet also, it's a film about a heavy topic. It's about domestic violence.
Despite the constant negativity, some people in Hollywood do feel sorry for Ryan. It's not common to see a big comedic star caught up in such intense behind-the-scenes drama, especially if he was blindsided by his spouse's moves. Others are less sympathetic, saying Ryan built an entire brand on blurring the line between actor and PR genius, benefiting hugely from it. If part of that brand involved using inside channels in a sneaky way, maybe Marvel was right to break away. At this point, the biggest question is whether Ryan's meltdown marks the end of his time as Deadpool. Could he somehow stage a public comeback by proving he had no clue what Blake was really up to, convincing Marvel to give him another shot? Or did the studio find evidence so damaging that it can't be undone? In an industry famous for big reversals, nobody's confident enough to say for sure. Right now, one thing's certain: the comedic icon who seemed fused with his wisecracking anti-hero is suddenly on the outside, thanks to controversies that started on a different movie's set altogether. He apparently feels betrayed, furious, and regrets not stepping in sooner, maybe to shut down the rumors or clarify what Blake was really saying about him. In the meantime, Ryan Reynolds loses it after Marvel fires him has become a headline splashed across countless websites, symbolizing how success can slip away even from the funniest star in the blink of an eye. Some people still hope there's a twist that could save Ryan's relationship with Marvel. After all, the studio is famous for unexpected moves and reconciliations, but others think the damage is beyond repair. Once trust is broken, especially in a brand as carefully managed as Marvel, it can be nearly impossible to fix. And now that the public knows about these accusations of manipulation and shady text messages, the chaos might be too big for Simple Charm to fix. No matter how it all ends, this story will be remembered as a major cautionary tale. It shows how quickly personal goals and star power can spin out of control and bring down not just individuals but entire franchises. Blake, once admired for her blend of style and sweetness, is now seen as a key factor in bringing down Marvel's favorite funny man. Ryan, the wisecracking actor who once seemed unstoppable, is left reeling after losing the part he turned into a phenomenon. And Marvel, known for strong bonds with its actors, had to draw a hard line, making it clear that even a huge box office draw can be cut if the brand feels threatened. No matter what happens next, fans will never look at the Deadpool story the same way. They also won't forget that despite Ryan's comedic brilliance, a messy whirlwind of behind-the-scenes drama was enough to knock him off the role he made so iconic. Ultimately, this sudden turn of events reminds us that in Hollywood, fame can evaporate in just a few dramatic choices, a handful of messages, or a chain reaction of rumors that, once unleashed, can't be controlled. No matter how funny or beloved you are,